got it.
Yeah. Oh, well, hi guys. Thank you for coming to listen to me burbling on. I shall try and keep it fairly short, but I'm allowing Janet or Sue or Lynette to give me you're talking too much as usual. Shut up and move on. So if I'm getting boring, just sort of glaze over a bit and wave the white flag and I'll stop. I remembered as Janet had said, I remembered the 2018 workshop quite differently, and actually I wasn't at all grumpy when I went in. I was absolutely shitting myself. It was like really big thing to do. It's bad enough admitting, you think, oh, I shouldn't be drinking so much, I need to do something about this. But to then walk into a room full of people who you don't know and sort of and who might know you don't know who they're going to be, or they might tell people or whatever. Oh, really difficult. So actually, if you think turning up to a Zoom workshop's pretty stressful, you want to try walking into a room. That was very stressful, and quite often people don't show because it's too difficult. So anybody that started this journey and come to Zoom or gone to a live workshop, well done to you, because a lot of people think they should do stuff and don't do it. So I challenged being grumpy. I wasn't grumpy. And apparently I'd said to the lady, she was tall, slim, blonde, 5'10", and I was short, fat, I won't say ugly because I don't believe I'm ugly. I believe I'm beautiful now. But, I was short, fat, and it was like, oh, why do all these people have to be so beautiful? Why can't they just be less intimidating and not make me feel even worse than I already do? And I'd asked her at the end, why do you look like that and I look like this? So I hadn't remembered, but I hadn't really remembered her until Janet sort of mentioned, but I did remember Janet, and I did remember Claire Pooley from Sober Diaries. So if you're new in and you've not read Sober Diaries, that is such a good book to read. It's brilliant. Anyway, enough of that. What I would like to say to everybody today is that we're all work in progress. I've done 5 years and I'm still work in progress. If you've done a day, you're work in progress. If you've done 50 years, you're work in progress, because we're all on a journey. We're not actually trying to get to a destination. And as you go along, if you think you know your destination, you'll find your destination keeps moving. So at the moment, your destination might be, I want to get sober, I want to do a week, I want to do a month, I want to do a year. But actually, the more you go on, if you keep learning and growing, your destination will keep moving. And that's great, because the enjoyment in life is about being on a journey. So my first thing to tell you all of the 5 things, the first thing is that I've learned is we can all do hard things. And, we've got to thank Lynette for this, choose your hard. We can all do hard. Life is always going to be hard and messy for us. And that's probably one of the reasons why we drink. We drink because it numbs things out. It helps us cope, or we think it does. In reality, it doesn't. But we expect life to be better. We think it's going to be great, and it's shit. Something happens. Somebody, does something horrible to us. Lots of things happen. And that is just life. So if you're expecting a perfect life, welcome disappointment. It's going to come along. So we can do hard things is about doing the things that make our own lives better. So for me, in the early days, stopping drinking was my number one thing. And when you want to stop drinking, you need to know why you're doing it. You need to have a good reason. And everybody hopefully has done the finding your why exercise, because that was such a help for me in the early days. And then I would say, if you're struggling with whatever it is you're trying to do, pause and have a little think, and think, how will I feel about this tomorrow? Because if you do the easy thing, which is have the drink, eat the chocolate, sit on the couch and watch Netflix, you're going to feel bad tomorrow. And actually, you don't want to feel bad tomorrow. You might feel good for 5 or 10 minutes or an hour today, but actually you're going to be hating yourself tomorrow. So just say to yourself, pause a little bit and say to yourself, I can do hard things. And actually, I'm going to love me tomorrow if I do this hard thing. Change is a challenge. And what I would say to you all is, you are all up to this. It might be scary, but you can do it. We can all do hard things. So become a person you can trust. If you say you're not going to drink, don't drink. You know, we let ourselves down all the time. So stop letting yourself down. Be true to your word. Become a person you can trust. If you're not going to do something today, don't do it. And don't, you know, you're going to have that struggle. Change is hard, but have that struggle and you'll be so glad you did tomorrow. I would say in my early days, or actually probably a bit later on actually, but coaching is a great thing for everybody. You know, your coach can't get you sober, that's something you've got to do, but they can help you do that. So if you're struggling and you need some support, use the groups, use the WhatsApps, get some coaching, because it will really help you. And actually coping with life is the biggest skill we can learn, because if we can cope with life, we won't need to drink, we won't need to eat things that don't, you know, make us well, we don't need to take other sorts of drugs. So coping mechanisms are the thing that we really need to learn, and when you can cope, you can do hard. So my second thing is living in the moment. Trying to find joy in everything is something that I really would suggest people try and cultivate. And that's a hard thing quite often, because we're designed as people to look at negative things. Our brains, our primitive brains, are designed to keep us safe. So we look for problems, we look for things that might catch us out, we look for things that could be scary, we look for things that that are going to make our life safer. But actually, a safe life isn't always a good life, a joyous life. And so if you try and stop worrying about tomorrow and stop worrying about yesterday and live in the moment today, and if you're feeling anxious or difficult, look for something that makes you happy. Look out of the window and see the sun shining. Look at a bee buzzing around your garden. Look at your dog licking its doodads and not giving a tinker's whatever about what anybody else is thinking. You know, look at something that makes you happy. So joyous and being joyful is something that we can all cultivate, but we're not biologically programmed to look for those things. So I challenge everybody, you know, take a little notebook, and every time you see something that makes you happy, write it down. And then when you're having a bad time, get your notebook out, your journal, whatever it is, and have a look and go, oh yeah, that made me happy, and try and remember that moment and feel that moment now. Feel what it does to your heart, feel what it does to your soul, feel that yourself, you know, that your face is smiling, and that will make you feel a lot better. And if you're struggling with something and you're feeling anxious, then breathe. Things will pass. Feelings don't last forever. So another thing with living in the moment is just remember that nothing is permanent. Everything will pass. Hard things will go when we, you know, we'll do them, we'll move on. Things will get easier. So try and be happy when you can. We can't be happy all the time. We're human. We need to experience a full range of emotions. But when you're trying to find the happy things, you'll find more of them. When you're looking for negative things, you'll find more of them. So wherever you focus is what you'll find. So I would focus on things that make you happy, things that fill your cup, things you can celebrate, rather than things that are wrong in life, because you'll find plenty of them. So that brings me on to number three. Number three is we all have our manuals. I like to thank Lynette for this one as well. we have manuals of how everything should be. Life should be like this. You know, Janet should say this and behave in this way. Lynette should be a coach and coach me in this way. You know, Sue should do what I say, and why is she doing that with the way she's doing it? Everybody should be doing what I think they should be doing, because I have a manual for life, and my manual is based on how I grew up, how society treated me, my life experiences. We all have a very different manual, and everybody's manual is based on their life experience. So when we think about other people not doing what we want them to do or we expect them to do, it's because they have a different manual to us, and it doesn't make them right and us wrong. It just means that we all have a different manual. So the critical thing for that, and this comes from the 4 agreements, if anybody wants to read a little book, is don't take things personally. I find that quite difficult. I find I take criticism hard, and I might react in a certain way publicly, and then I shrink and cry and beat myself up about things and get angry behind the scenes, because I find not taking things personally quite difficult. And actually, when people do things, it isn't about you. It's about them. It's about their life and their expectations. And when you start to realize that your life and your expectations are different, and they're all valid, everybody's life experience and expectations are valid, and it's not about you when somebody criticizes or says something wrong or doesn't behave in the manner you want, you'll start to actually find life gets a lot easier, because we'll get disappointed a lot less. So not taking things personally is a very good thing to do. And we only know ourselves. And so we know what we know and we know what we think. We don't really know what anybody else is thinking. And often we don't really know what we're thinking ourselves. Quite often we're just a function of our programming. So, we've had things happen in our past and we react in a certain way, and it's become very ingrained. So, if I was having a bad day or a stressy day at work, I poured myself a drink. It became a habit. And then for somebody to say, oh, why are you doing that? Are you drinking too much? Oh, I'd get very aggressive or angry, or how dare they say that to me? But, they were looking at me perhaps with a compassion and were worrying about me. And I was feeling angry because I was feeling judged and criticised. So if we tend to try and look at everybody as having their own manual, their own experience, and try hard not to be critical or judgmental, it doesn't mean we can't give advice, and it doesn't mean we can't offer love and compassion. But if we do something and we get it wrong, I get things wrong all the time, as most of you will know. I put my foot in my mouth so many times, my mouth got twice as big. But if we think, okay, I've learned from that, I'll do that differently next time, but don't stew on it. Or if we make amends and move on. But if we try and be less harsh on ourselves, then that's a really good thing to do. The last thing in manuals I would say is take control for yourself. I've said we can do hard, but it's very easy for us to become victims. We blame everybody else, and that's because we have a different manual. So blame everybody else. Oh, I don't actually have to take any personal responsibility. For me, it makes life so easy. It's all their fault. But in reality, if it's somebody else's fault and their manual's different to yours, life isn't going to change. It's always going to be their fault. And actually what we want is our life to change if it's not hard. So don't be the victim, be the success. You're the one that can change you. So think about it. How can I change things? Think about them differently. So that brings me on to number 4. And number 4 is a lovely saying I enjoy. It's change your thinking, change your life. Change your thinking, change your life. So Janet says I do some good reframes. Rather than we have a drinking problem, we don't. We have a drinking opportunity. I'm glad I was a drinker, because it's allowed me to have a much better life than if I'd been a moderate drinker and was still drinking. So look at things, as we said, a bit in living in the moment. Look at things from a way that's positive. Everything that we have in life is an opportunity for us. It's an opportunity to change or to grow or to help somebody or be compassionate. And so if we reframe events and things that are happening, we can make them a lot easier, and we don't then get all the negative emotions and cortisol and all the things that makes it angsty and the things that actually make us old and ill over time. So again, not taking things personally, it's the same thing. You get a load of, if you can not get all those hormones and bits kicking around, you can actually be more comfortable in your body and your life. If somebody said to me, Lucy, put your hand in the fire, you'd think, that's a bit stupid. Why am I doing that? But we believe our own thoughts about life. And actually, our thoughts aren't any more real than somebody's stupid suggestion. Put your hand in the fire. Why? It'll hurt. I'll get burnt. But we tend to believe our own thoughts. Oh, you're not good enough. You're a waste of space. You should have done this. You should have done that. Those thoughts are no more valid than somebody telling us to put a hand in the fire. what we need to do is step back and be curious and be objective and say, no, that's not a very clever thought. I'm not going to pick that one up and play with it. And these are the things that I keep going on about at the end of Zooms. So look at your thinking and look at it with kindness and compassion, because it's still you. And it's you trying to help you, but you don't have to pick up and play with those thoughts. You don't have to believe them. So if we change the way we think about things, we're not doing it to help somebody else. We're doing it to make life easier and more palatable for ourselves. And so anything that causes you angst, sit and look at it and think about it a little bit and say, okay, how can I think about this in a different way that makes it easier for me? You know, if somebody's being mean, they might just be having a bad day, you know, and actually you're the only person that they're close enough to snap at. They haven't got anybody else they can go and rah at that wouldn't smack them or walk away. So just go, oh dear, you're having a bad day, never mind. It's not personal. So my last one, last one hopefully for you, my last bit, number 5, nothing really matters. It's just what we make it mean. And yesterday I went to the funeral of my best friend's dad, and he got into his 80s. He had a good life. And it was interesting at his funeral because the eulogies that were read told the story of 2 very different people. His granddaughter saw one man, and he was a fantastic granddad. I mean, he was like a dad to me when I was a kid. And, you know, I thought he was a great bloke. And then the other person that read a eulogy was somebody that had known him in a bit later on in life, that he went to the soccer with, football with, we call it football in the UK, and he played cards and cribbage and went to the pub with and did pub skittles. And that was a very different man that these people knew. And, you know, I think sometimes about, you know, his wife, and his wife had 2 conflicting people that she had to deal with. And then that got me thinking about my own funeral. And I thought, what do I want to do at my funeral? Well, I haven't got any kids, and I don't know if anybody's going to turn up. So, but I thought, wow, it'd be quite fun to do my own eulogy and do it on, you know, on video, or, you know, record it so it could be played. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, if people didn't like what I was going to say, there was going to be some good news. And if people did like what I was going to say, there was going to be some bad news. And the news is, you ain't going to get another one. This is going to be it. So in reality, the good news and bad news was the same news. And it just depended on how people took what I was saying. So that's a little thing in life that I think, I don't know, it's one of those things that hit me yesterday. Everything is just news. It's how we think about it. It's how we frame things. It's as to whether things are good or bad. So actually being judgmental about things, deciding things are good or bad, it doesn't really do us any good. Everything is what it is. It's neutral. It isn't good or it isn't bad. It's our thinking that changes things and make it good or bad. So the blessing I've had in 5 years from, you know, Janet's first workshop for me in 2018. Actually, I'd like to make a point, guys. I didn't walk in with a hangover. I was actually a month sober when I turned up. So there were some people that had walked in with a hangover, and oh my God, you knew they were going to struggle through the day. But I didn't walk in with a hangover. But yeah, when I walked in at Janet's workshop, the thing that has been the most wonderful thing for me is I've been on a journey. And that journey has allowed me to learn and grow. And the thing I've learned most is coping skills. So coaching with Lynette's been brilliant. Listening to the wonderful people Janet has on her podcasts and coming to talk at the Zoom Cafe has been amazing. Listening to people's stories that they tell on here, that, you know, the hardships some folks have had because of alcohol or traumas in their early life or whatever. It makes you so... the vulnerability that's displayed by people at Tribe Sober, I love beyond anything. And it keeps me, I won't say it keeps me sober, because I don't think I could be persuaded to drink again. But I love it. It makes this tribe so wonderful. Oh, that's classic. I've just lost my train of thought now. So I've forgotten what I was actually going to say. There was going to be a good point, but I've missed it now. But I love the tribe, and I know I'm back there. It was from the 5, the 5 years at the start. It was all about getting sober. And as I've gone along, and as I've got new support and coaching and different things, reading loads of books, I'm learning something all the time. That's where I started. We were all on a journey, and we're all work in progress. And learning coping strategies is the thing that is going to keep you sober, as well as being with tribe sober. So if you're wondering what to do next with your life, you've probably got sobriety nailed, then getting hobbies and new exciting things, living in the moment, health, all those things are great. But the more you can invest in learning coping strategies and calmness and compassion and self-love, the more beautiful your life will become. So I'm currently reading a lovely book which was recommended on the journaling course, and that's Untamed by Glennon Doyle. So thank you for recommending that, Janet. And that, if you fancy it, that's a good book. I love Byron Katie, that's a good book. There's loads and loads of good books. So keep learning coping strategies and life will get easier, and then you won't need to resort to drinking or anything else. So my very last thing is 4 things left. Love yourself, forgive yourself. That's the hard one, forgiving yourself. We can forgive other people, but we've got to forgive ourselves for things we don't do well. Laugh at yourself, and above all, be proud of yourself, because you're here and so many other people aren't, and you're changing your lives. So thank you very much, Janet, and thank you all for listening.
Oh, thanks, Lucy. I'm just going to stop the recording.